What's up guys, and welcome to today's video. In this one I'm going to be showing you 5 really useful drills and exercises that you can do in order to improve your kicking technique. And they're all across different types of areas, so there's a nice bit of variation in there as well. They're also roughly in order of importance, which is going to be really useful because there's obviously some things that you want to have kind of mastered or down pat before moving on to more difficult things. Now, before we get into the actual tips, what I think a good idea to do is to begin with watching some footage of really incredible kickers. Now, this is going to be different for everyone's specific taste. Me personally, I like to watch videos of different things because I think they've all got their own values and strengths over each other. Now, you really want to look at how these people are doing it, and I don't mean just watch them and kind of take it in, but I mean really look. Watch it frame by frame. Now, even though it's likely you have an instructor showing you specific things at your classes perhaps, there's absolutely no harm in doing this as well. Now, that might sound like a bit of a trivial thing to do, you know, just watch some footage and things, but it's a really, really effective way to learn. And the more you kind of like saturate yourself with the things that you're wanting to accomplish, basically, the more likely it is to happen for you. Like, you might have heard of things like vision boards and things like that. This is pretty much kind of like a version of that, but in a different way. So that isn't one of the 5 tips that I'm going to share. However, I do think it's a super important tool to be utilized, like especially if you're going to be going training or something like that, because that's what I usually like to do. Like, if I'm gonna go training, I'll have kind of like 10-15 minutes maybe, and I'll watch some clips of things that I'm wanting to practice that day, maybe have a little look at the techniques and things. I always find that the sessions after doing that are way better than if I just kind of, I guess, rolled out of bed and went off to the gym or something like that. So here's a list of the things that we're going to be looking at in the video. This section will be taken by my buddy Andre Victorian, who's a performance coach and the creator of the Flex Theory method. I've worked with Andre quite extensively over a number of sessions, and his knowledge of combining strength and flexibility is absolutely mind-blowing. So he's going to be explaining a little bit of his training philosophy as well as demonstrating some exercises as well. So what we're doing first is some slow kicking drills, and I'm holding on to a chair for balance so that I don't have to worry about it during the motion. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm doing a full extension of a side kick that I hold out for 10 seconds. And then once I've done that, I'm doing 10 slow repetitions. You want to try to really have the best form that you can on these, so that obviously when it translates to doing it more quickly, that form remains in your muscle memory. So you see here my heel is facing towards the target. I'm doing a nice chamber, extension and rechamber as I bring it in. And then those are followed by 10 fast repetitions, and finally finishing on another extended hold. And as you can see on here, I'm demonstrating with a side kick, but you can use this for all different types of kicks as well. Now, if you try this, you will notice pretty quickly that your glutes and your obliques start to really ache as you're holding that kick out. And you'll find probably quite quick improvements as you do these, as they're muscles that probably don't get used that often. And this one is a bit of a variation just to change things up a bit. I'm doing 1 low side kick and 1 high side kick.
Within each one of us, then the entirety of the cosmos is accessible through each and every.
And then finally, just a mix of different kicks. And this is really good for kind of getting into those right positions. So really concentrating on where your hips are placed, those chambers and rechambers, and all those important things like that. This next one is some traditional line kicking that you might see in a taekwondo class perhaps. Super basic and controlled, but I still think this is one of the best ways to get your kicking reps in. So starting nice and low and controlled, and then picking up the height and intensity as you go. Now, I'm just doing 1 kick here, but you can mix it up and do all sorts of different things, and at different intensity levels as well. Now, the main thing to do is practice your best form possible in a controlled way to make everything else second nature. So it's not so much about practice makes perfect as the saying goes, it's more like perfect practice makes perfect. Next, we're going to do some plyometric jumping drills, which are going to be awesome for developing your explosive power. Now, when you're doing these, they're pretty self-explanatory from the footage, but one thing to mention is make sure that you are jumping from the ground. Most people, when they do this kind of exercise, stand up first before the jump, and when you do that, you're kind of losing a lot of the benefits. So make sure you really spring explosively from the ground and straighten your legs up as you do so until you come back down. And for the second one, as you can see, I'm doing like a lunge type position, and you want to remain in that lunge throughout. Basically the same principles apply. Make sure you're jumping from the ground again and extending the legs as you go. Also be careful not to smash your knee into the ground when you come down. Land with control, and that's also going to help with your stabilizer muscles too. We're also going to be doing these on both sides. And finally, we're doing a switching version from left to right and vice versa. These are an absolute killer, guys. So like I said before, be careful how many you do, and I wouldn't recommend doing them day after day. I'd do them every other day to start with. So as mentioned earlier, for this section we're going to go over to Andre from Flex Theory, and his exercises are really good for helping kicking overall, but specifically between these 2 points of a kick, and concentrates on strengthening the hamstring. So with that being said, let's go over to Andre now.
Hi, I'm Coach Andre, founder of the Flex Theory method, and today I want to share one of the really important processes to the method called the pull and press. Now, I started doing this when I was about 8 years old. Because it felt right. I could tell intuitively without anyone else telling me that this was working, and I saw the results. It was the beginning of an incredible athletic career. The way that it works is we pull on something and we press on something, just how it sounds. The reason it works is because it relies on long muscle lengthening and isometric pushing at the end of that muscle length. That's important because isometrics helps you recruit far more muscle fibers than other methods. Doing this at an extreme length helps you produce hypertrophy and strength in a spot where you're typically weak, and induces a flexibility response. All right, I'm going to demonstrate a pull and press from a hurdler's position. You don't have to use this position at all. This isn't about the position, it's about the process, which is the pull and press. You can do that from, say, a straddle if you wanted to, and it can be a short straddle, need not be wide at all to get to your hamstrings. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab around my foot because I can. If you cannot, grab somewhere else on your leg underneath, because you're going to need a good grip. What's better than that good grip outside of your foot is using a towel around the foot, or a band or a cloth or something that you have, choking up on it, going as far as you can, and then doing the next step, which would be to drop the elbows. Once the elbows are down, you don't have to make it to the floor, you have to seek the floor and let your body respond to intention. From that point, you are going to use your biceps, your shoulders, your back, and pull yourself forward, elongating your spine so that you bend at the pelvic bone, inducing additional stress outside of just the position by the pull. You will feel it right away. It will feel much different. And once you're in that position and you're pulling as hard as you will allow yourself to, you press down into the floor while you keep pulling, and you will count here for somewhere between 10 and 30. Start with 10, build up to a higher number over time, and then you're going to release, keep your body down, straighten out the arms, press that heel into the floor, and you will gently and gracefully come back up. And that's how you'll come up from everything. And that's the pull and press. It will build the hamstrings incredibly well. It will also give you a flexibility response that's unlike anything else I have ever seen. I will show you just very quickly. I've done this without any weights whatsoever. That is from doing the pull and press and 5 or 6 other components of the Flex Theory method with those processes placed into positions. I hope this helps.
These torso raises happen from a side kick position, resting on a wall, and help to strengthen the oblique muscles in a way that helps you recover balance from high kicking more quickly and helps with overall kick stability. So rest your leg on the wall, but not too high to start with. Bend at the waist all the way down, holding guard. Raise back up and focusing upon using the obliques predominantly with that mind-muscle connection. And when you're at the top, you want to pinch the obliques slightly for a split second before repeating the movement. Once you've done these, you're going to hold the top position and perform 10 small crunches of the obliques before completion. Something really important to mention here about the alignment of this. You see on this clip, I'm not in alignment and I'm kind of coming out to the side as I raise towards the top. If you do this, you're not going to be hitting the muscles correctly, so make sure that you stay in line, almost as if you're kind of between two panes of glass and moving between them.
Technologies that interface with consciousness and that we can make contact. As civilians, we do not have to wait for the governments to do it. The universe is really folded within.
So that concludes this video today, guys. I wanted to make this one a little bit more simple from my usual kind of like informational based videos. So if you like this kind of style of video, let me know and I will be able to produce more of them in the future. And lastly, head over to my YouTube channel. I've got a spin hook kick tutorial scheduled to go live the same time as this video, and it's youtube.com/GrantStevensMA.